All right. Yeah, just leave it for them. All right. Hey, ma. Hey, 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 hey. Boom. Hey, studio. You're listening to Smooth, the 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. You are back on to Smooth Breakfast. Of course, the dial is smooth, the 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. It's time for Lagos Talks 981. Today's a very special day. It's a special episode today on the Lagos Talks 91 segment of our show. And we have a very special guest joining us live today via Zoom. And we're going to be looking at bullying this time. Now, we're streaming live on YouTube, by the way, so go to YouTube at Smooth981, where also you can also join the conversation on our WhatsApp platform. So store the numbers 0809 444 0981. Following the incident from the Down College at Lekki of the death of the 11-year-old Sylvester Oromoni. Joining me live today via Zoom is a child psychologist to talk to us about the culture of bullying, identifying and addressing the menace. Joining me today is, thank God, Ocheon. He is a child psychologist. Thank God. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Judy. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you for joining us. You can stream us live on YouTube. So go on there at Smooth981. That's where we are up on YouTube. And you can also send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. Now, if you listen to the show yesterday, almost like about 90% or 70% or 80%, or if not all the calls from yesterday was pretty much about just the incident that happened over the weekend at Dowen College and the unfortunate death of the 11-year-old Sylvester Oromoni, all thanks to his wounds from allegedly wounds from his bullying attack that was at the school. Now, the social media has been buzzing, both Instagram, both WhatsApp. We've seen it pretty much everywhere, videos, pictures floating the interweb. And it got us asking the question, what is bullying? How do you identify bullying? How do you identify that your child is being bullied? What can we do as parents to make sure that our children are not the bullies or they are not being bullied? And how can we stop the culture of bullying altogether? Now, I must put it out there that sometimes bullying is not just in schools. You can find it in workplaces, you can find it in your social gathering. It's when you go out for restaurants or go out to a party, how you speak to somebody else, or when you talk down to your subordinate. Sometimes that's bullying, but we're going to go in depth into it and have a conversation with our child psychologist here. Now, you can be part of the show, like I said earlier. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. That is our WhatsApp number for you to join the conversation today. All right, so thank God. Let's start with the basics. All right. Just define bullying for us, so it can get back to the real basics. What is bullying?
Okay, like I said, thank you once again for inviting me. Bullying is looking like a very big word now that everyone is talking about and everybody's scared, probably because of the reality that we're currently in. But to be honest, bullying is not a new word. It has been there even when we're in primary school, But so when we look at bullying, basically it's just that force, coercion. It could also be threat or teasing that someone deliberately, inflict for the purpose of intimidating the person. And there are three components when you look, or four components when you're talking about bullying. The first one is hostile intent. The second one is aggression. The third is imbalance of power. And the fourth is it has to be repeated and ongoing. So when you look at this word, you realize that bullying does not just take place in schools alone. It takes place everywhere. And we see it on a daily basis in our society.
Fantastic. Now, you're a child psychologist. And a lot of people will say that, child training, or if you didn't train your child well, chances are that child will become a bully. But let's start with, how do you know a child? What makes a child a bully? Are they born with it? Do they just become one? And how, as a parent, can you identify that your child might be a bully?
Okay, thank you very much. The first thing I'd like to say is that no one is born a bully or to be a bully. We cultivate it from the environment, and it becomes a culture and a norms that people see it as the reality. I'll give you an example. Some parent bully their children, the child sees it. Parent bullies the teacher, the child sees it. Parent bullies their nanny, their drivers, their security, the child sees it. Parent bullies, teachers bullies the children, they sees it. Husband bully the wife, the child sees it. The wife bully the husband, the child sees it. Religious leader bullies their member, the child sees it. Politician bullies the citizen, the child sees it. So in the brain of the child, over a process of time, bullying becomes a reality. Bullying becomes a norm, because everywhere the child goes, he sees bullying. He eats, he dines, he drinks with bullies. He sees it everywhere. He sees it every day. So this becomes the child reality, and the child takes this as the norm. You see, for parents and also other caregivers, what are some of the signs that you can see that to know if a child is a bully? The first thing I'd like to say is that you need to be willing to be observant, because some of these signs will not be obvious. And quite a lot of parents are not sensitive to the behaviors of their children. I'll give you an example. For instance, there's a particular child that was sexually abused for close to 1 year. The father's driver was having oral sex with that child, a 3-year-old, close to 1 year, and the parents did not take note until the child fell ill. The tummy began to protrude, and they took the child to the hospital. Unfortunately, the child died. When they did an autopsy, they found out that there were a lot of semen in the tummy of the child. But it wasn't obvious when the driver started it, because the parents were not sensitive. But there were certain behavioral expression that the child was expressing at that point in time that the parent did not observe. So the first thing I would say, that parents need to be very observant if they must identify the signs, if they must identify the signs in the child to know that they are being bullied. And the second thing is that bullying affects the child physically, socially, and mentally. And what do I mean? The first thing, let me start with the physical sign. Now, for you as a parent, when you begin to see bruises or cuts in your child, unexplained bruises or cuts in your child, you need to ask questions. When you see their clothes, torn clothes, you need to ask questions. When you see their property being missing, you need to ask questions. When you see them having poor eating and sleeping habit, you need to ask questions. When they complain about having headache or stomach ache, you need to ask questions. What about material items? You see them coming every time, asking, Mommy, give me money, give me this. It's possible somebody in school is requesting for aid and is using bullying together, but you also don't ask questions. You need to ask questions. When you talk about school problem, you see your child don't want to go to school. You say, Mommy, no, I don't want to go to school. You don't want to stay close to a particular student, or he always stay close to the teacher because he's afraid of some student in the school, or the child starts sitting alone. You need to ask questions. What about social changes? The child might avoid social events even in school because that's something they used to enjoy, like parties. They talked about being excluded, in the classroom. All of these, you need to begin to ask questions. There are also emotional changes. Probably the child becomes anxious, upset, unhappy, antisocial behavior begin to develop. The child is getting angry unnecessarily, becoming aggressive. When you start seeing all of this behavior, you need to ask questions. However, I'm not saying that all of these signs are indication that a child is being bullied, but they are part of it, because other traumatic event can cause some of this sign. But what I'm saying is that when you begin to see some of this behavior being expressed by your child, you need to take it seriously and don't ignore. And one of the things, again, we need to understand is that children react differently to bullying. It depends on their personality and also the nature of the bullying. So if it's something that is very intense, they will react differently. And also based on their level of resilience. Most children have not been able to build the resilience to withstand challenges and circumstances of life. So when a traumatic event comes in like that, like bullying, it affects them deeply, and the way they will react will also be very intense. So it's very important for us to be observant first and identify some of these signs. Always ask questions when they come back from school and you begin to see change in behavior. Because whenever there's change in behavior, it means the child is learning something, whether good or bad.
All right, but talk to me about the signs for a bully. For when, how do you know if your child is the bully? How do you know? Because oftentimes parents will say, "Oh, well, I never saw him act this way," or bullies can also disguise as the victim. So how can you tell as a parent that your child is the perpetrator of this, acts?
So you can know, first of all, you need to understand that whether you like it or not, there are certain aggressive behavior a child will have displayed in your presence. That's why I talked about being sensitive. And aggressive behavior doesn't have to be physical. It can be verbal also. You understand? There are certain words your child will use in your presence, that they will also begin to use also in the presence of others. You need to be sensitive. What about the desire for power? You understand that when your child always is desperate to have power, always want to be in control, and when you give the child the opportunity, you look at how he use the power to be able to inflict pain on others. Some of these things are signs that the child is also a bully. So you need to look at some of these signs. For instance, again, how do they manage the success of other people? How do they manage the abilities of other people when they see other people making progress? Do they want to threaten them, or do they want to do things to inflict pain in them? These are also signs that you see that this person is a bully. But most importantly, let's look at how they manage power. Look at their relationship with others. Do they relate well with other people? Look at when they are relating with people that they perceive to be older than or they are seniors. How do they relate with them? These are some of the things you need to observe to see if this child has that tendency or if it's actually bullying other people.
All right, great stuff. Now, a lot of people so far with this incident that happened over the weekend, and the unfortunate death of Sylvester Oromoni, a lot of people have come out to say that they too have been victims of abuse, especially in boarding schools. Now, it seems like as if boarding schools seem to have this type of issues, but why is that? With the presence of teachers, I went to a boarding school, and I know I was bullied the entirety of my boarding school career, but their teachers, headmistresses, headmasters, boarding house mistresses as well, boarding house masters who oversee this house mistresses and house masters. But somehow there's also the prefects, the seniors, but somehow this culture is very much viable in this system. And it's not like it happened yesterday or this has been happening for a year. This has been from the testimonies that we see now, people coming out on social media as well. This has been for a very long time. Now, people are arguing that a boarding house should be scrapped. So do you think boarding house should be scrapped out completely? And why is it so prevalent in boarding schools?
Okay, personally, this is my opinion. I don't think boarding house should be scrapped completely because most time when things happen like this, we always look at the symptom and the fruit and not addressing issue from the root. We need to do a root cause analysis. Scrapping boarding school is just addressing the symptom. You are not looking at the main issues, and which is something I would like to really share with all. The truth is that boarding house has its own benefit, just the way it has its own pros, it has its own cons. You understand? But scrapping it is not really the issue because so many people have gone to boarding house and they have come out well. The same way some people have gone to boarding house, and they have brought out the beast out of them. So what do we need to understand is that it's not just scrapping out the boarding school that is the solution. We need to begin to standardize the process. There need to be child law and child protection law within every system that is enforced. It's not just putting it, they need to enforce it. We need to begin to create what I call the trauma-sensitive classroom and schools, because most schools are not trauma-sensitive. Most classrooms are not trauma-sensitive. We need to begin to create that within the system. So the main problem is not about whether boarding school, whether there's boarding school or not. Most time, like I said, we look at the outcome and not the process. And we don't have to address only the outcome. We also need to look at the process. Once a proper system and structure is in place, some issues will be resolved. However, personally, like I said, I don't encourage it to be scrapped. But what can be done, when it comes, and why is it prevalent in boarding school? Because it's a controlled environment. Children stay there Monday to Friday. That is the environment in which they live. They play with their peers, so they have the ability to be able to engage in such acts because they see them consistently, if not, let's say 18 hours in a day. They relate with them, they interact with them. And most times, you see, it happens in secondary school most of the time. because there are also some physiological changes that is going on at that time, at that point in their life, because they are teenagers, or most of them are teenagers. So there's that physiological changes, and one of those physiological changes is that they begin to develop that sense of independence. Independence, I begin to see it's a transition between childhood and adulthood. So that sense of independence is beginning to set in, and what they are doing is that they now begin to realize that this sense of independence, they cannot begin to use it to inflict it on other people. And of course, they have the power to be able to do that. They give them a lot of responsibility. You are now the senior. You need to always be in charge, to do control. You are the one that will wake the student up. You are the one that will coordinate them. So because they have so much responsibility and power is given to them, and we not taught them the purpose of power, so that we use the opportunity to be able to inflict pain on other people and bully them in the process. So my point is we shouldn't scrap. Rather, we should put up a more structured and system to monitor this process so that we can resolve the issue of bullying within the system.
Nice. This message is from Andrew from Amuwo Odofi, and it goes, bullying has always existed, but the society hasn't taken it to be serious, to be a serious issue until it resulted in death. This is a usual practice in our climb. We are a reactive people instead of a proactive. Bullying has led victims to loss of self-confidence and suicide threats. Other victims have become reserved and become sociopaths and exhibit signs of PTSD. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that. We need to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be talking about teachers and the school administration and school culture when it comes to bullying in schools. Stay with us. All right, we just took a break and we'll be back after this.
Okay.
All right, so the break is for like 3 minutes just to play the ads, and then we'll come back. So when we come back, we'll pretty much just touch on school culture in and of itself. Does school culture aid this? And then a lot of persons have said that, you know, teachers, I am of the opinion that, you know, teachers aid bullying, just because even from secondary, or even from primary school, right? You know, there'll be a teacher that would say, don't play with that child, don't play with this person, you know, they'll kind of make comments, but that thing are sort of ingrained, and that comment itself is, in and of itself, aids culture, bullying culture, right? So we're going to talk about teachers as well, you know, just basically school culture, you know, should guidance and counseling units, you know, should be more proactive, you know, in cases like this. And the truth is, people have also said that they've reported to their school authorities, and sometimes they turn a blind eye because they're out to make money because they're profit-making venture. So we'll just talk about just school administration and culture and everything else, right?
Okay.
Well done.
Yeah,
well
okay.
done.
Come along with the journey of a lifetime with MTN. We invite you to partake your share of MTN today. 169 naira per share.
Share of MTN today. Download primary offer app by NGX or contact your stockbroker for more details. Get one free share for every 20 shares you buy. Offer closes 14th December 2021 at 5 p.m. Please consult your stockbroker or banker for guidance. T's and C's apply. You are welcome. Join us as we go on the journey of a lifetime together. We move. Everywhere you go, MTN.
An exciting day at school begins with breakfast plus Big 456 growing up milk fortified with DHA to support brain development.
Grow up strong and smart with Big 456 growing up milk every day. We've kept the bedroom going non-stop with amazing refreshments and cool vibes from your favorite music artists. And now, get ready for the biggest and most exciting December ever. It's Pepsi December! It's go hard or go home this Pepsi December, as Pepsi hits you back to back with the biggest and loudest musical experiences. It's going down this December, and you don't want to miss a thing.
All right, we're going back in.
Okay.
Follow at Pepsi Nigeria on social media platforms for more details. Pepsi, for the love of it.
Hello, this is Jessica Bombers. When I think of music, I think of a safe place. I think of comfort. Music to me is therapy.
Music heals my soul. Music makes my day better and eases all of my worries. Music to me is everything. Love music, love life. Smooth 98.1.
You're listening to Smooth, the 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. It's the Smooth Breakfast Show. It's the second leg right here on Lagos Talks 981. We are the original home of Lagos Talks. And you're welcome back. Today is a very special segment of Lagos Talks 981. I have with me, joining me live via Zoom, is Thangod Ocho, and he's a child psychologist. He joins me live to discuss about the culture of bullying following the incidents that happened at Dowen College, resulting to the death of late Sylvester or Romani. You can join the conversation. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. We have calls here. I'm sure it's all about questions for you, thank God. So we're going to go to the calls and take the questions from our callers. Let's do that. Hello? Good morning. Your name, please? All right. Soji from Festa, go ahead with your question, please.
Good, and your guest there, I greet him, please.
All right. Yeah, thank you. All right.
We always look for a shortcut to anything in this country. I don't know why we don't leave the actual issue in the board and solve the problem. Okay? Because, like I rightly said yesterday to you, my own experience of boarding house was very good and encouraging.
I need you to explain. You told me about your orientation. Can you explain now that the child psychologist is here? Tell us again what that experience was like.
I said in Form 1 and Form 2, although you call it bullying now, we call it bugging. Okay? It's between Form 2 pupils and Form 1 pupils. Form 3 are never even involved. It's always the aspect that I've been in the school before you. And they try to make us understand. Because I was in Form 1, I realized that's in government college usually. It's only upper six and lower six pupils that are allowed actually to punish, who are prefects. Okay? Then in those days, all they tell you is, come here, you, where are you from? I will tell them I'm from Lagos. They will tell me, you mean you left Lagos, left Ibadan, left this, left that, and you came all the way to Ugeli. Is there no schools there? Then the maximum they ever do to us is to give you a knock on the head. Some will even come to you from two pupils. So they will come to you and tell you, do you know my name? What is my name? I will say, sorry, because we don't call senior or anything. We say something, please. So please. That's the way it's entailed in my school then. Okay? Everything we have to look at now is what is happening in Nigeria. We tend to pamper certain people. Come to FESTAC now and see what is going on. There are some people that we think they are sacred cows. And this is what has eaten deep into our fabric in this country. Until we can correct certain things, all these things will continue to entail. Let us stop the aspect of looking for a shortcut. Boarding house is good. I always say to people that if you do not attend boarding house, you have actually not gone to school. To be sincere, boarding house was good. But now, happening. Money, all these people that came into money illegally and so, they tend to pamper their children. There's no discipline again. Most of the discipline I got was from my school. Government college usually there. Even table manners, even going to the dining hall, even punctuality was from that school. How this is get to you. But the house is good. It should never be scrapped. But the discipline must be adhered to, must be inculcated in each of the children, right from their home to the school.
All right. So, G, thank you so much. Thank you for your call there. I appreciate you. Keep your calls coming on to 014489981. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 4440981. Thank God. First of all, his experience is pretty much just intimidation, and he doesn't know that until I told him that is bullying. but he doesn't know that was bullying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was. We have more calls here. Let's see who this is. Hello. Good morning. Your name, please. Yeah, me from Ogba. Yemi, go ahead.
All right. Bullying, like the analyst has explained, is I can give it 90% for all you can have, what you analyze. And I was a victim when I was in secondary school. This happened about 28, 29 years ago. All my life I've been a day student. And, when I was getting to SS1, my father said, okay, fine, let me take you to your buddy house. Because my little older brother was a boarder. So I just wanted to have that experience of being a boarder and all that. And he took me to a school, but the boys' alone school somewhere in Ekiti. And uh, my fourth year, coming from Lagos, I met few friends that they were from Lagos, and you blah blah blah. So yeah, they were in SS3 while me I was in SS1. So I took my friends then were the senior guys, and and I didn't even have friends in my SS1. So most of the guys I rode with were the SS3 students, and the first time all the things I brought from Lagos, what do guys do there just for you to have clothes and what do you talk about parties and all that. So I had everything in school. I didn't even know as a child, I was just rolling with the senior ones. And to cut the story short, in my third by the third time, when the older students were leaving and the SS2 students they've all planned for this guy. With this guy always going with the senior boys. And then when the senior guys get to punish the SS2, I was always there laughing and all that. I didn't even know, being a child. And
You were sheltered you were sheltered because of your older brother, and when you left, you became a prey for the predators.
no, so and once they sent for all of them out to leave with same day, so no SS3 student will be left behind. So the SS2 students took over and they made them active prefect and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That night, they came to my room about 11 p.m. They brought me out, and I didn't know what I did. And yesterday, they laid me down. I started beating me. What did I do? Started beating me. It was so bad I could not sleep. I still have some of the scars on my back today.
Oh my God, I am so sorry. I am so sorry you had to go through that.
So when I heard this guy's story, I was like, let me just tell you how God saved me. By 5 a.m., they left. They beat me till about 1 a.m. They left. By 5 a.m., they had to wake me up for the morning devotion. Morning devotion was normally 5:30. So they came earlier to wake me up. There were many, about 10 of them. Took me they gave me cutlass to go and cut the grass. I was not afraid. They were not, they didn't even care about the reptile snake. I was there cutting this grass and all that. Planning all those guys. Please, I didn't even know what I did wrong. But I knew I was the only one because I didn't even have friends in my SS1. So they're all those SS3 students. So the following day, I could not go to school. We had exam. I couldn't even go. I was there. They locked me. My story was just the same story with this boy's story. They locked me in the dormitory, one corner there, which belongs to one top guy like that in SS2. I was there to daybreak. And the following day, my father, I don't know what happened, he just tried to drive me to school. And, because this, I was schooling in the Southwest and he was into cocoa exports and all that. So he's always, traveling around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just asking for, there was no GSM, I didn't have anybody to talk because I think everybody was against me and nobody could talk. We couldn't go to school to write my exam. My father came and they had to look for me. When he saw me, my father was crying. Likewise myself. I was naive. I could not even talk. I was just there shivering. He took me to the master, the house master and all that. The principal came. Those boys were all expelled, all of them. But if my father had not come, I don't know what would have happened to me. If I could see how that scar my back to this age in my late 40s. So you can imagine what I've gone through. Maybe I'll have died just the same way this boy died.
All right, thank you so much for that. Thank you, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I, so thank God, right? This is quite interesting, and I love it when they share stories here. I love just sharing stories because it really gives you an insight to just human nature itself and the fact that we all share experiences. And his story
Yeah.
is similar to Sylvester's, right? Only Sylvester was trying to be join. They wanted him to join their clique or their gang or their group, and he didn't want to. And also the boys had been expelled. The persons who allegedly did this to him had been expelled. And when they came back, they still continued. So it really goes to show to an extent that we all share human stories. And it takes me back to the question I was going to ask you before the break about school culture itself. This happened to this last caller, 20 something years old, at 20 something years ago, right? And he's now in his mid 40s and still have the scars at his back. And he said something. He said, nobody could say anything. Nobody could do anything. And it goes to show how he couldn't write exams. And the invigilators, his teachers, and even the headmaster, or the class captain didn't even say, hey, look, this person is absent from class and we don't know where he's at. We have to look for him because we're writing examinations. But nobody. And talk to me about school culture. Does teachers and the school itself, administration, aid bullying? Do they aid bullying?
Okay, thank you very much, Judy. Let me say something about culture. There are times culture can be very dangerous because it can take you to the point where you think you are doing something bad, and because it has become a culture, you see it as something that is good. And that's one of the most dangerous things about culture. Now, most time when teachers or educators or even students get to school, they don't drop their behavior at the doorstep. Neither do they drop it at home. They take their behavior to school, including the teachers and educators. So there is an intersect between what happened at home and what you experience also in school. So if, for instance, a teacher who had been traumatized, who grew up in an environment where he or she was traumatized, was bullied, he sees that in the process of time as the reality. And when the person has the opportunity to hold power, remember one thing I said about bullying, the imbalance of power. That is one key component I want us to have at the back of our mind. It's because you are now superior in code, or you have that positional power. That is why you will use it to inflict pain without understanding the purpose of power. So when you have a school culture, when teachers see himself or herself as a mini God, who see himself as a lord over the student, and you will realize that they will use that power to manipulate. I was once a teacher, taught in the university. I also taught in secondary school, but I understand how powerful a teacher can be, that if you don't have a culture that makes the teachers to understand that their position is for them to serve the student and not to manipulate, intimidate, threaten, or bully them, then we will begin to have a problem, talking about this issue of bullying. And when you also don't have consequences for bullying, when a teacher, not just student to student, when a teacher also bullies student and you don't have consequences, or maybe people that are in charge don't enforce this policy, it becomes a problem. Another thing that we need to look at is the entering process of the teachers or whoever is a staff in that school. How many schools do behavioral profiling before a teacher is employed or before a staff is employed? What we do is that our emphasis is on subject mastery, that this teacher knows this subject, but we don't do a behavioral profiling to know their temperament, to know their personality, to know their history of trauma, to know what this person has gone through before we employ them into the system. And trust me, a hurting teacher will hurt a child. I repeat, a hurting teacher will hurt a child. So if a teacher has gone through a traumatic experience, don't expect better from that teacher. The teacher need to heal. In fact, everyone need to go back to their childhood. Think when they were in primary school. Think of when they were in secondary school, how they were bullied. Like I said, this thing has been there. It's just that this one is here. Sylvester is not the first person that died as a result of bullying. It's just because this social media has brought this one out. And a lot of people's self-esteem has been damaged in the process. Their self-confidence has been damaged in the process. Most people are not assertive to be able to stand against bullying. And I will tell you where this problem of not being assertive started from. It started from the family. There is a culture in Yoruba that says, Agbalagba Okinkuro. What it means is that elders don't lie. And that is a dangerous culture that they have shown to us. So even when an elder is lying, as a child, you cannot question the elders. So as a result of that, you go into your shells. You are talking, your parent will shut you down, or they will threaten you, and you go into your shell. You can't question anything. You can't ask questions. See, your ability to question and to ask questions is what makes you a human being. And the child goes into the school system. There is a teacher who has a throne in the classroom that serves as God or a mini God that everybody must be accountable to. So even when the teacher is wrong, the student cannot question the teacher, neither can they ask questions, because the teacher will shut them down. And see if that is not enough, we get to our religious environment. The imam, the pastor become the God. So they are doing things wrong. We cannot question them. And we come to a society, the same thing happen. So you see the culture of not being assertive is spread around. So you expect the child to get to school and the senior is bullying the child and the child cannot stand against it because the self-confidence and the self-esteem have been battered and shattered that it cannot stand against what is wrong, within the society. So people are traumatized, and you go to a lot of schools. There are, I said it again, most schools don't have trauma-sensitive policy. A lot of things are happening within the classroom that students have been traumatized, even teachers have been traumatized. In fact, the salary alone that teachers are collecting are traumatizing.
True.
And they transfer the anger on them. There's what we call displacement. It's a defense mechanism. Displacement means that when somebody who is superior is bullying you, for example, and because you cannot react to that person as a result of the position, you transfer the anger to someone that is less threatening. And most time, if the proprietor of the school is bullying the teacher will transfer it to the student. Or when a parent comes to school, I've seen situation when I train schools, I've seen situation where a parent will come to the school and go to the classroom to bully the teacher. The child will see it.
That was a situation as well. I was going to bring this to maybe you can help me make sense of this. So I went to a school where there was pretty much a disparity, not disparity, but it was very obvious in who had wealth and who didn't have wealth, right? And who was wealthy and who didn't. And I don't come from a wealthy background, right? And what was quite interesting was when those who had money could go meet the teachers and give them money, and it would sort of like give some sort of immunity to their children and some sort of protection for their kids. So when seniors were to bully you, the teachers could be like, no, that's my person, don't bully her. Or you guys, let her go now. Why is she kneeling down? Get up. So there was some sort of, so if you didn't have money, it was really clear that you're going to get even more bullied and speak to me about that. Help me make sense of that. So that's why I asked, do teachers aid from this? Does it help them as well? Or the culture, I don't know. Help me. My brain is fogged at this point, but help me.
So again, like I said, it depends on the kind of schools and the culture that have been created within the school environment. Teachers at times hate bullying, to be honest with you. So for instance, when the teacher tried to treat certain students, preferential treatment more than the other student, it's an opportunity for the other student that are being, to also want to, bully the other. It make the person revenge, grievances, begin to set in, and the child want to look for something is going to do, especially the child now has other abilities more than the other child. They want to use that to be able to inflict pain on the child. So teachers needs to watch that. Again, remember those days we have schools like missionary schools where we have both the rich and the poor in the same environment. It's not always like that now. People come to school, especially, you see some high profile school, people go there, they want to also bully using their wealth.
Yeah, wealth,
exactly. Using what they have to be able to bully other people. And because the school also create that environment, even when they are doing party, to the point of doing party, you will see the kind of celebration. Some people don't want to intimidate others. They will tell you, you need to do this, you need to do this. So they want to ensure that they are the one that have organized the best birthday party in that school. Because again, there is no school culture. All of these things have been addressed when there is a policy. It's the policy that will form the culture within the school environment. What is the core value of your school? Do you people really enforce it? And like you said, motivation matters. If the motivation for me establishing a school is to make money, every other thing becomes secondary. And because we don't have government that regulate most schools, there is no standardized process. People do whatever they feel like doing. And it becomes the culture within the environment. So it becomes a major problem in our society. So we need to begin to address this thing, beginning from the home. The parent-teacher association should be taken seriously. It's not a place where we begin to talk about Nasrebi or when you begin to talk about the end of the year party. It's a place where there should be serious engagement, intellectual engagement on how the life of the children can be better, how the school can move forward, how the teachers can also be better. Look at so many schools. Some schools don't have psychologists. They don't have guidance and counselors. And most of them are just ignorant about the behavioral issues that children are going through. Quite a number of children come to the classroom with trauma.
I understand during my first year when they made us study child psychology, one of the things that they said was how that a school cannot do without the guidance and counseling department, and how very much it's so crucial in forming and creating the school culture. But from my experience in education, and also from my primary and secondary school career, the guardian and counseling almost felt like a building that was there, and the guardian and counselors were just the counselors themselves are just there and only appear
Yeah.
when there was some disciplinary case or there was some committee, but they never or when they come they help you with your jam form or your wired form,
Yeah.
but that's just about it. They were not doing anything as opposed to talking to the child, and that really hurt me, because in this situation there was a video that was leaked about a guardian and counseling teacher that was saying that he worked at this particular school for allegedly worked there for like a period of years and had to leave because they turned a blind eye. Talk to me about the very importance of this department, and just the lay emphasis on guidance and counseling for me.
I think thank you very much for asking this question. Every school needs a guardian and counselor, or every school needs a psychologist. And the reason why I'm saying this is because as important as the teacher is to a school, is also how important the guardian and counselor or psychologist is to that school. And the reason is because you cannot separate behavior from learning. That's the truth. So the role of guardian and counselor is not just for academic career, to know which course best fits you. Because there are behavioral issues that children bring to the classroom that affect learning, their ability to be able to concentrate. For instance, we talk about bullying, it's a behavioral problem. We talk about substance use and abuse, it's a behavioral problem. A lot of children are experiencing divorce at the moment, it's a behavioral problem. A lot of children are going through having low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. A lot of children are having a lot of behavioral issues, eating disorder, anxiety, depression, so many issues that they bring to the classroom that is affecting their inability to concentrate. And you say it's not an important aspect to look into. It's as important as teaching, because if you don't address behavior, teaching will be ineffective. The teacher will be wasting time, putting so much effort in trying to teach a child who can sit in the classroom and is already daydreaming because it's not concentrating. There's something about trauma. Once you experience trauma, it affects the dynamics of your brain. And it's the same brain you used to learn that you will use to think about the issue that you're going through. So how do you think a child can effectively improve school performance or academic performance if the behavioral issues are not addressed? So as much as the teachers and what they do is important, also the role of guidance and counselor and psychologists are important in the classroom. And because of ignorance, a lot of schools don't take this for important. What they focus on is just the academic performance. And again, I don't want to blame schools alone. I also blame parents, because if parents begin to ask questions, they begin to address these issues, to say don't just focus only on the academic, also look at their behavioral issues, because as human beings, we have our mind, we have our emotions, we have our body. All of this we bring to the classroom, and you will not disconnect learning from behavior, because both goes together. So as a teacher, you must do your job to improve their thinking, and as a guidance counselor, you must help them to improve their behavior so that there can be effective coordination within the classroom and the school can move forward.
Thank God you've been so good with this. Thank you so much. We've learned so much from you. But before I let you go, because I'm pretty much out of time and we just have 1 minute, I need you to talk to me about what are the ways forward for us as a nation, as a country, when it comes to bullying, and also any advice for the parents.
Parents should start. Sorry, you just give me 1 minute, so I might not have time to talk about this, but let every parent go and understand the child psychology, how children think, how they feel, and how they behave. There are certain environments we create for a child that will help the child to function maximally, that when they get to any other environment, they will behave well. The foundation always begins from the home. And for government, they must take education seriously. I know some of them have killed the educational system, because most of them are now having their own private schools. So they are not making the public school to work. So they are having their own schools, which they are gradually killed. But I think the Ministry of Education needs to be active. If you ask how many people now, who is the Minister of Education, most of them don't know, because they are not really active. So we need the Ministry of Education to be active to ensure that schools are regulated. Not anybody can start a school. The fact that you have 1 room or 2-bedroom flat doesn't mean you should start a school. They need to begin to give people license to start a school. And when I mean license, there should be a thorough check, a thorough process. Not just somebody paying bribe and you give the person the license to start a school. So we need to check that, because that is also the starting point. And also not just giving people to start a school, you now need to begin to regulate, put policies in place. And even this bullying thing, lest there be a legislation on anti-bullying policy within schools. I think it's something Senate and federal, Senate can begin to implement going forward. So when we look at all of this and every one of us put our effort together, I think that we'll be able to address this issue. But again, parents, schools, government, and everyone has a role to play in addressing the issue of bullying in our society.
We all have a role to play as well as media as well. Thank God. Thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate
Thank you, JD, for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you to everyone who called us and also sent us WhatsApp messages. I'm sorry I couldn't take all the calls. I saw them, but unfortunately I couldn't take them. This brings us to the very end of Lagos Talks 981, a very special that's been on about, we've been talking all about the culture of bullying, how to identify and also to stop it in its track. You can go find the video now. It's up on our YouTube page. Stick around. Coming up at 9 a.m. It's going to be time for the Grapevine 981 on Smooth Breakfast. My name is Judith at TV. Stay with us.
Smooth 98.1. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Take care.
You